I guess we are ready to go. I just got a phone call here at the very last second, interestingly enough. Mabuhay, Kamusika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Thank you for being here today. This here Monday night is the usual night for, I'm sitting on two pillows, so it looks like that's better. This is a normal night for me to try to do a live stream, and so that's what I'm trying to do today. We did one on Saturday. Aiza and I did one talking about working in America, money-related things, and that one did quite well, which I was a little bit surprised at, being that it was a Saturday night, and I really had not done one before at that time. So Aiza is at work right now, so kind of lonely right here. So I wanted to do another live stream, and the topic today is going to be where MGTOW goes wrong, and we'll be looking at I will be responding to a video by the Nomad Capitalist that is at the very top of the live chat here, so you know what I'm referring to. The Nomad Capitalist is right. My take on his article, or his video. I don't think this is going to be very long. I do want to read through my take on this, and then we will just back up and we'll be going over his 5 points mainly that I thought he made. And the points that he made in that video, it's hard to tell if he was applying it directly to MGTOW, because it could certainly apply to just, a nomad capitalist lifestyle. But I thought it was good how he, thank you for the thumbs up. I thought it was good how he started off talking about MGTOW. Big Rob, hey, thanks for being here tonight. I wish I had a prize for the first person that was here. So, but of course, I appreciate everybody stopping by and giving up part of your time. Parabiology 101, good to see you here tonight. We're going to talk about MGTOW a little bit, and never in a divisive, combative way. I just don't think that's the way to go about things. The thing about this is, I want to extrapolate from my own situation, some things he said, some comments he made in that video. And his video is about 12 or 13 minutes long. And I do have it linked there. You can always go back and look at that later. So I eventually here soon, I will start in and give you my take on that. You can go ahead and leave comments in the meanwhile. I'm going to read this off of my teleprompter over here, which is a Word document, and I can only assume that nothing else has changed and that you will still be able to see me. I just won't be able to see the comments. It's not, and it should work. So I guess you'll just have to knock real loud or something if for some reason you can't see me. But I'm going to do that, and then I'll go back and we'll look at the comments, and I can switch to my email just to cover some of those points. And this video was sent to me, and I agree with the person who sent it. It was actually Mr. E that picked this out from somewhere, and I thought, well, okay, I think I can take that and apply it to a Philippine solution. We always want to have solutions here. We don't want to just talk about MGTOW and gripe and complain, because the older you get, the more you'll realize complaining doesn't do any good, and nobody wants to hear you complain anyway. So that's the life lesson for today. Yeah, I do think it's an interesting topic. If you weren't going to find a bride in the Philippines, I'd go MGTOW, and that's a scary thought. Parabiology 101. Well, because it's kind of like throwing in the towel, and I know you're not an old guy. You're about 11 years younger than I am. So, but this is the thing. What you just said was the reason that I want to do videos like this, And the reason I have a channel called Love Beyond the Sea, which I hope people would subscribe to, because we want to offer solutions here. We recognize things aren't good. Thanks, Michael and Heidi, for being here with your handy wrench. Hopefully you don't have to swing that anywhere today. And you guys understand what MGTOW is, men going their own way. The deck is stacked against guys, and a lot of guys have been victimized in just astounding, unfair ways. And I understand them saying, you know what, it's crazy. Not getting married, just forget it. They're all the same. All my friends are been going through the same thing. It's terrible, and it is terrible, and it's really affecting our culture, our young men, middle-aged men, older men. Yeah, depressing looking at women's profiles. Big Rob says now. Big Rob is looks like he's going to find a wife overseas. It's what his goal is. He's well on his way there. I found a wife overseas, married her May 10th, 2015. After now I'll tell you, but you can't tell this to anybody else. Okay, this has to stay right here. But I was kind of wandering in the desert of singleness for like 30 years when I found my wife at age 53. So I don't know how to edit that out later, so you just have to keep it right here. Don't tell anybody. Alone for 30 years, but I hooked up with a wonderful woman on Christian Filipina and proposed to her on the 18th day, and we got married in 7 weeks and 5 days. Now, again, I'm not going to recommend that to anybody else. It's just I was chomping at the bit. I felt like I'd been ready a long time, and finally found somebody that was ready, willing, and able to say yes and to commit to a relationship. So that's what we've been doing. And we'll have a link to his video in the description box when we're all done. And I can certainly put it in there with the community corner in the comment section, pinning it after we're done. I'll have to go through and do that. But up there, community corner, we've had some action in the relationship lounge. Click on that link, you can go see it. I think you still have to get some, password and a username for that, I believe. And it's better for you to look at it now because there's some action there. And I have a video on how to use it. And for those of you that are familiar with that type of message board, I think you would pick that up pretty easily. Now, before I even get to the commentary, we have some questions here, some comments at least. I better check it out. Well, I don't think you're going to have to go MGTOW parabiology, so that's good. Big Rob, I think why some men go MGTOWs because of feminism, and no feminism, probably no MGTOW. So, you can, if you're old enough, you can kind of see the seeds of this being planted many years ago. And when you get older, like, in your 50s or 60s, then you can kind of look back and say, see, I told you so. This is where we were headed. Parabiology, yep, that's why I've been MGTOW for most of the last year until I decided to find a bride from the Philippines. And that is a very viable solution. And as we look at the Nomad Capitalists commentary on MGTOW, we're going to reinforce that tonight. Almost like dating a man. Am I dating you or applying for a job? There's it's not a pleasant experience looking for a wife here online. I can tell you, Big Rob, that my experience on the website Christian Filipina was there was no interrogation. My wife wasn't really interested in the past, and she wanted to focus on our future together. And we can talk about our past, which you always should, but that's not something she wanted to hear me complain about or go into excessive detail about. She wanted to move forward. And that was really good. She also didn't sit there and complain about her life or anything like that. It was a very refreshing experience when I had those chats with about 4 or 5 women, including my wife, who we went steady with. We went focused on each other, and that helped us get married very, very quickly. Okay, Bill O'Reilly, we need to click you off of there. Yeah, thank you, Parabiology 101. Who has the bigger one? Dominant American women. You're not likely to find dominant Filipinas. They tend to be, I almost said malleable. I don't want to say that. They are easygoing, and I have found my wife to be adaptable, easygoing. You know, we've learned from our spats. 4.5 years of marriage now. We can look back in the first 2 years and think, you know, well, I'm glad those first 2 years are over, because we had a lot to learn about each other, and we made it through those 2 years. A lot of people tell you the first couple of years is going to be the toughest anyway. And, you know, I'm just so very pleased to have married a Filipina. Yeah, Fair Biology 101, bad experience, learning the hard way. And so Big Rob, you guys know what I'm referring to. And boy, that's a sad experience there, Big Rob. You'll have to elaborate if you want to, but being single can lead to some humiliating experiences at 23. And at 23, these humiliating experiences can be very profound and long-lasting. Demichi, hi, you have a question, and you can certainly ask it. So I'll have to scroll down there to get that for you. Big Rob says Michael and Heidi says he sees the feminism inside the church. Now, it's the last place, you would want to see it. And Big Rob, after many years of it in America, I said, I quit. Never thought of dating another America woman. Found success overseas. And I saw and commented on your video this morning, Big Rob. I think you had been out a couple days, and I saw it this morning. Now, hold on here, Michael and Heidi. Did I just read this right? What's crazy is the men in the church encourage this. Let's see if that goes away and changes. No, it's still there, and that's still what it says. And why men would encourage feminism, I don't know. Are they afraid to speak up? Do they feel completely outnumbered and surrounded and feel like that's the only way to deal with it? I don't know. Dimitri says, so there's this celebrity named Kanye, and other Christians judge him that he is not a Christian, but others say, don't judge, only God can judge. But doesn't everyone judge? Is that hypocritical? Well, there's a difference between judging and being discerning. We should never judge in the sense that we know deep down inside what's in someone's heart. We shouldn't judge thinking deep down inside we know what somebody's motives are, and because we just simply don't. Only God knows everything. And so as far as judging, let's say, Christian behavior, that's up to, God is the ultimate judge of that, of course. Having said that, there are certain times, like when I'm looking for a wife and I'm looking for a Christian wife, I have to, in my opinion, look for a Christian wife. So that means I have to use some discernment. That's different than saying I'm going to go out and judge people And because that's different. Why? Because the Bible tells me not to be unequally yoked with an unbeliever. So that's assuming that I have to make sure I marry a believer, and I have to use my mind, my experience. I have to be discerning, not judging, and that's different. Same thing with a believer raising his children. Are they believers? Are they saved? Well, they're going to have to use some discernment, and as they go through their life. So judging, wrong, bad, discernment is necessary. If that helps. Tim Tom Red Pill, thanks for joining us here tonight. Tim Tom, most foreign women make good wives, not just Filipinas. And there are a lot of other countries out there where women are hungry for a man. May not even have to be a Western man, but there are men who have been, scooting out of the West and looking somewhere else. And that's one of the keys tonight when I get into the commentary is solutions, finding solutions. And I think a lot of people agree with you, Tim Tom, because that's what they're doing now. They're not doing what I did for all those years and just assume, well, if I can't find somebody here in the United States, it's over. Well, thankfully it wasn't over. Thankfully I didn't quit, and I found a wife in Davao City, Philippines. And Michael, Dimitri, my opinion, you're correct as it relates to our brothers and sisters judging salvation. We are not to judge. When it comes to marriage, you better find out who she is. And along those lines, Michael, one of the things my pastor said we talk about was who is Jesus? Just heard a sermon about that today. Who is he? You may not think he is God, but who is he? Who is he? There's plenty historically written about him, and then the Bible itself is a book that we understand by faith. You're right, Michael. We better find out who she is. Ask her questions. How important is your faith? What does your faith mean to you? How do you get saved? Can you lose that salvation? If you're a Christian, those are the types of conversations you want to have. If you marry into a certain denomination that you're looking for, you want to be thinking about spiritual compatibility. That's one of the major things. There are some things, I don't know that you need a lot of compatibility with a foreign woman, but whatever you feel is absolutely essential for you, then you better have some compatibility in that. Judge a tree by its fruit. Right. And in time, parabiology, these fruits are revealed. Some people worship the Lord with pride. We are all proud people, and when we come to Christ and be saved, we're not that much different than we were before, because it's something brand new. I mean, it's new, but you still carry around your old nature, and in time we should expect change, but that change isn't often immediate, even though there is a lot of good intentions and enthusiasm and excitement early on after a conversion. Michael and Heidi, you've seen it like pandering to the public is really bothersome to me. Yeah, I assume we're still talking about the church in some way pandering to the public. Yeah, I think in some ways they feel like they're afraid they'll lose their jobs, and I think they ought to be more afraid of what God thinks about what they think and what they're doing, because they don't have to worry about people ultimately. Oh, how much of the world is now in the church? I don't know. People say it's getting worse and harder to find a good church, and no church is perfect. I think we've all had disagreements with people if we've been involved closely in the church, but you can tell when the world is in it, when they're afraid to talk about biblical things, they're afraid to talk about marriage, they're afraid to talk about right and wrong. Thanks for the thumbs up. Well, the church is there for one thing mainly, and that's to teach the Bible. Is for the fellowship of believers, and you're not doing them any favors by being unwilling to say what needs to be, to just speak the truth. I mean, some pastors will gloss over or kind of not touch on touchy subjects when they get there, and they really should, because that's why it's there. And that's why I appreciate the pastors that go through the Bible one verse at a time, because they're forcing themselves to cover things. They're not allowing themselves an out to avoid it. What happens if someone only prays but doesn't know any of the gospel? Will he or she be saved on Judgment Day? Well, we're all saved by the grace of God, just like the thief on the cross, who got in by the skin of his teeth, because we're saved by grace. It's better to know the gospel. However, somewhere in the Psalms it says the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. Day unto day utters speech, and night unto night shows knowledge, so that we're without excuse. So even without the gospel, the universe, what we can observe, is just screaming at us that there is a God. And so, yes, a lot of people die without the gospel. And again, at that point, I would not be able to say where they would go. Yeah, Dominican and South America. Philippines is only my kind of topic, because I married a Filipina, and that's about the only other nationality that I have any experience in. And right now, the one that I am, supposed to be investing myself into. Big Rob, I thought the same thing. There was no hope for me. Even women told me in my face that no woman wants me. Yeah, I've heard some bad things from an angry former girlfriend, and probably Big Rob. Some of those things are they're not true. They're just said out of anger. Thanks for the thumbs up. Thank you for everybody being here tonight. And God made a lie out of them. Blessed you, the good Filipina, and you had to go out and look for that Filipina, which is the topic of some of your videos right now, including the one I looked at today. Brothers, go out and look elsewhere, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. Well, Parabiology 101, thanks for stopping by, and again, I hope you have a great time in the Philippines coming up here in about a month or so. Ukraine as well. Sun Valen, thank you for being here. And yes, there are many people. In fact, Philippines and Ukraine, I suppose if you just did random searches on YouTube, you'd probably come up with those two as some of your more frequent stops for guys looking for a wife. And the devil knows the gospel. It doesn't save him. He believes in Christ. It doesn't save him. He wants to be worshipped. He doesn't want to worship God. That's why he has a place in hell someday, whenever it's the Lord's plan to go through with all of that eschatology. If you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord, believe in your heart that God raised from the dead, you will be saved. And that's it in a nutshell. Thank you, Michael and Heidi. And believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord. That means he's the supreme master of the universe, and every knee should bow. God raised him from the dead. That takes a lot of faith. But if you do, God has put that faith in you. And Jay Budd, you're here in good time. Will Tolander, thank you for joining in. I know we don't want to jump right in, because then people slowly start coming in. And Jay Budd, you're going to like this. We're going to talk on some MGTOW things, nothing harsh because I don't want to do that. Fear is the root of all anger. Western women must be very afraid of something. Well, we're going to talk about some benefits of Filipinas here tonight. Sun Valen, the problem with, and I appreciate the comments. My commentary is not going to be all that long. And I hope that when I do that, that will instigate some other comments from you too. Sun Valen, the problem with Western women for me is not getting them interested. That's easy, but they just want to sleep with you, do not want a relationship. When they do, they are horrible. Well, I guess there's something in it for them. If they just want to sleep with you, a relationship is infinitely more than sexual intimacy. And if anybody doesn't know that now, they're going to know that eventually. So, but men used to have that reputation of being players, and it sounds like now there are more women who are trying to steal some of that thunder and be players themselves. And well, I'm sure it feels kind of weird to experience that, but you also realize they're not interested in you as a person. They're not interested in having a long-time relationship with you. And I want a relationship. I mean, my channel, when it's all said and done, which will hopefully be many years and many, many, many hundreds or thousands of videos, will be about the many aspects of a relationship. A relationship. You're going to have difficulties. You're going to have discord. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. You're going to have to learn how to be unselfish. You're going to learn how to ask for forgiveness. You're going to learn how to forgive. All of those things are the same for anybody. Nobody's unique in avoiding that. And so a relationship is a great thing. And just to say, well, I just want the sex, well, that's not a relationship. I mean, it's not, they call it a sexual relationship, but what it is just two people, or at least one of the person, actually just wanting to satisfy themselves, and a relationship is for and with that other person. So best thing is to look for someone that is willing to invest in your relationship until the day you die, and there are people like that. Yeah, Dominican, South America. Now, of course, Ukraine. So we're gonna get into this because I want you to hear the Nomad Capitalist thoughts. So I'm going to do that right now. I know I'm going to have to scroll up later. So right now, you guys, I'm going to read from my trusty teleprompter, which is my computer screen. So I can't see you. Haven't done this before. I hope you're all still there when I'm done, because I guess short of switching over here to YouTube while I've got my phone, we can see if maybe I can catch some of these comments. There it is. That guy looks familiar. So, whoops. Oh, I got 2 thumbs down. That's okay. So let me start here. Where MGTOW goes wrong, the Nomad Capitalist is right. Here's my take. Now, I was shown a video from a very popular vlogger with about 93,000 subscribers. That's an awful lot. Called the Nomad Capitalist. Perhaps you have heard of him. I'm sure talking about MGTOW isn't this man's normal thing, but he did what I thought was an insightful video called Where MGTOW Goes Wrong. And I'm going to link it for you in the description. I already did at the top of the live chat. Now, in this video, he casually and calmly talked about some aspects of MGTOW, men going their own way, that I think you need to hear today. It's good stuff. You'll see. Subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea, where we strive to get it right with foreigner and Filipino relationships. There is room for you in the lifestyle and relationship lounges to discuss all things related to finding love overseas, and we have some discussion already underway. Get notifications by tapping the bell. Your comments are always welcome here too. Now, what was the Nomad Capitalist right about? I'm going to list 5 comments he made. Another one I'll mention that I'm not sure exactly what he meant, but maybe you can pick up on that if you watch that video. At the 6-minute mark, he said, "Why are we stuck blaming women? Why are we stuck blaming women?" And that's a fair question. Some MGTOWs are more critical than others, but I am aware there is a lot of complaining about women all being the same. Doom is certain. It's just a matter of time. Never get married because it will ruin your life, and so on. But I believe that deep down inside, most of these men would love to have a good relationship with a woman and might even be willing to try again, but they seem to be convinced that women are women, and no matter what you try, it won't exceed. Just checking to see if everything was okay. Back in 2015, I was in despair as I thought I exhausted my last chance at finding someone when a woman I would never had thought I would show interest in still didn't show interest in me. I felt numb, confused, crushed, like there was no other reason to keep pushing as I was getting older with no results. I was 53 then, but I had been serious about finding a wife for many years. I wondered if I was just too serious. Maybe women could sense something, desperation. Maybe they could somehow tell I had been alone a long time. You start to doubt yourself after so long. And no, I hadn't been divorced, but I could have chosen to blame women and loudly proclaim that I wasn't being given a chance, and maybe I wasn't. Friends and family didn't know anyone. Single women didn't seem to be at church. I had been rejected twice at work. I have to tell you, I got a lot of advice, but no one until 2015 suggested I try finding a wife from another country. Evidently, that was a concept so foreign, no pun intended, that no one had brought it up before. I was someone who didn't think it was practical to date someone 100 miles away, but I actually decided to pursue this. Fortunately, I didn't reach a point of settling on blaming women. Frankly, that wouldn't have made me feel any better. I knew I just had to get married. I didn't know how, but I believed it was for the best that a man and a woman live together as husband and wife. Even taking out having a child, I still feel that way. Men need women, women need men. When the going gets tough, the tough get what? Going. Maybe even to the Philippines or any choice that you want to make to find a wife and to keep looking. Another comment I want to talk to you about later, and we'll can run over these before, in case you, or later in case you forget. But I'm going over his points and then my take. So another thing he mentioned at the 7-minute mark was run to something, not from something. Run to something, not from something. Good advice. I really like this comment that the Nomad Capitalist made, and it certainly applies to finding a wife. A skeptic would say that to you, that you're only considering a woman from the Philippines or some other country because you are a loser who can't get interest from where you are from, and you have to escape, find love somewhere else, or that you just can't cut it in the West, so you have to run to somewhere else. There's no guarantee going somewhere else for the sake of going somewhere else is going to produce positive results either. That's why you need a good reason to run to something else. I didn't just throw a dart against the map of the world and decide on the Philippines. Since I was young, I thought Filipinos were exceptionally pretty, and I liked that they were short with light brown or dark brown skin. Later, I learned they had a good reputation for making good wives. Many years ago, a friend who I thought didn't even want to get married married a woman from the Philippines. And that was before the internet. So I think the reason it didn't motivate me was because it seemed too risky to communicate only through handwritten letters. Today, of course, there are apps for webcamming and texting that simplify the process a lot, making the experience of getting to know a Filipino much easier. I am not the only guy to say he chatted with his wife for hours a day before getting engaged. The Philippines is an excellent place to run to when you are ready to make a commitment to a woman from another country. And some of you have already done that. We've been married for a little over 4.5 years and have known each other for about the same amount of time. Both of us were willing to get married quickly. Unusual, I know, but then again, I think a Filipina is on an international dating site to find a husband, not a pen pal. Never did I think I was running away from something. Another comment I want to talk about with you shortly when I'm done here with my commentary is go where you are treated best. At the 712 mark, the Nomad Capitalist said, go where you're treated best. There are many men who can attest to being treated better in the Philippines by their Filipina, and also even after bringing them to their country, like me. I think wives will be different in the Philippines, but many of us have immigrated our wives and have been able to manage that. You may just have to experience this for yourself someday. At the 733 mark, he said this, and this is again something that is important. People put their home country perspective on the rest of the world. People put their home country perspective on the rest of the world. This is most certainly true, even of relationships and finding a wife. It would not be fair to the rest of the world to assume it's the same everywhere. Cultures are different. Different things are valued. In the Philippines, for example, family is so important and there is no divorce. The United States is just one country out of many. It helps that English is taught in the Philippines too. There is far less emphasis on feminism in the Philippines. A woman will give a nice, decent, thoughtful guy a chance who doesn't have to have Hollywood looks. I was just looking for a chance. There are many channels out there about a man and his Filipino wife or girlfriend. It's been a thing for quite a while now, and I think that the stranger society gets here in the West that a man would do well to consider the Philippines. At the 1027 mark, I'll throw this out there. Maybe you can watch it and catch what he was getting at, but I don't think he really elaborated. Because what he said was true. He said, we want really feminine women like the old days. Nothing wrong with that. And now I didn't understand what he was saying. He gave me the impression that there were some things to be wary about here, kind of like be careful what you wish for. But I haven't come across anything like that. Now, my last point from him was from the 1135 mark of that video that I have linked, and you'll be able to find later too, is why don't we try to find a solution? Love Beyond the Sea is about finding a solution, and I have many videos with many more planned to help men with the process of getting to know a Filipina and how to dwell with her in harmony. I found my solution to many years of loneliness by venturing overseas for a wife. I still can hardly believe that I did that, but I did. Mr. E designed the all-in-one place WordPress location for you to watch the videos. See them in article form. See my wife's new YouTube channel. She just put some videos up there. And find my Facebook and Twitter sites. He contributes his own interesting articles to the blog on occasion, giving it a different flavor, and that's good. And as if that wasn't enough, he recently built into the WordPress site a message forum called the Community Corner, where you can discuss various issues related to lifestyle and relationships and even direct message each other. And something we're thinking about doing soon is a newsletter where at the very least, I can keep you up to date on some of the recent videos and when the next live stream will be. I know it can be hard when you're getting notifications for a lot of videos to sort them all out. So this way you'd be able to get an email with certain information, but you just have to stay tuned for that. It is still in process. So I'm just about ready to get back to your comments. And this WordPress site is very dear to me because it's just so awesome. I encourage you to bookmark the WordPress site, and you don't have to venture from there to find a solution to being, you don't have to venture far to find a solution to being without a wife. We're here to help you find love beyond the sea. That is what it's all about. Talking about what's easy, what's difficult. Thank you for those that are here. Thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. And so now that I've read that, I do want to, I want you to let me know of those points, which ones resonated with you. And, I can refresh your memory here. I just have to get to my phone. They were really, really good points. So I'm going to try to make sure I pick up kind of where we left off here. And ABA, ABA, if your Filipina isn't with you unless you provide and protect what you have isn't a relationship based on love, but an agreement based on trade. And ABA, welcome to you tonight. And this is the thing. You mentioned the word unless you provide and protect her what you have, and protect what you have isn't a relationship based on love, but an agreement based on trade. The Filipina, she is looking for protection and provision. Appreciate the thumbs up. She is also looking for an opportunity to help back home. She's probably poor. And if you've never been to the Philippines, you probably can't relate to how poor she is or was. Now, not every Filipina is going to say, yeah, sign me up for a Westerner. It's a big move. It's a big deal. They do think about these things. At least the ones you want to marry. They're conscientious of what's involved. They want to sort through their options. They know what they're getting into. They know what they're leaving, and it's hard. But they also want a good man. And there's some good, honest, decent, genuine, nice, caring men that have been rejected in the West who, I think, before they throw in that towel for good, that they get studying about looking for a woman overseas. There's no shortage of websites and YouTube channels about that. Mine is going to be more of the inside nuts and bolts of the relationship. As I am married longer and learn, I want to share that with you, the good, bad, and the ugly, without throwing my wife under the bus. But there's a lot there in your statement. A woman is going to want a provider, and that's just something that there's nothing that you or I can do about. I think this is just the way she's made. A man wants sexual intimacy, and that's so important to him. It just is so much a part of our being and our self and our personality. I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on that because one day that's not going to work like it used to, sooner or later. But a woman is very, very concerned about that. A man might make some bad choices in who he marries just for the sex, and a woman can make some bad choices just for the provision. It's going to be there. Don't resent her for wanting to provide for her family. It's a cultural thing. It's a strong cultural influence that's not going to change anytime soon. And I think a man does well not to resist it. What he can do is encourage her to work, which she probably will want to do anyway, and help her find a job. Start with a temporary agency if you can to get her foot in the door. I don't think the right Filipina wants to gouge her husband of all his assets. She doesn't feel good about asking him or telling him, hey, we need all this money for my family, because that doesn't speak well of her. She is also, let me tell you, obligated to support her family. She is. She's not going to come here and say, oh, great, I'm here in the United States or somewhere in the West that I've always read about was such a great place. I'm so glad to be away from the Philippines and the poverty and the struggles and so on. That's not how she feels. She has to help her family because she is living or will live in shame if she does not help her family. And if you want your wife, Filipino wife, to be shamed, then just go ahead and insist that she not be giving money back home, because she will be shamed. And you don't want that unless you want to provide it all yourself, which is always theoretically possible, but not very often practical. So part of his love for her is going to be recognizing her situation and wanting to be good to her. I did a video called, Will a Filipina Love Her Family More Than You? So that might be a good one to look at. because I talk about the love of family. There's a certain type of love, it's called filio, for the family. Some cultures it's stronger than others, and it's very strong in the Philippines. However, I can tell you, and other men can tell you from their own experience, that that they feel very loved by their wife. There's always going to be, I suppose, concessions and trade-offs in any kind of relationship, probably especially more so with a big culture gap. Then you can throw in an age gap very often. So I just want here to stress to be understanding of the Filipina. And the word love kind of bothers me, because what does love mean? Love could mean whatever anybody wants it to mean. And I have made some videos on what love means, really what it means, and how to describe it. And so we would take all day to talk about that. So I won't do that, but you might check out some of my videos on love, and just be patient with this Filipina or any woman overseas, because you don't want to miss out on a great opportunity. New York Mets fan 2006, thanks for being here. Recognizing what they are. Well, I mean, when I guess, but not all women are like that. All women have a need for their own and their children's, especially, basic necessities being met. Now, for a Filipina, her family is very, very important to her, and that's a good thing. You can't change that. That's just how it is. It's like telling a man, well, you shouldn't put so much emphasis on sexual pleasure or sexual satisfaction. Try explaining that to a woman, because it's different, and there's nothing really that can change that either. Hank Hilliam, welcome, Hank. It is a man's job traditionally to provide and protect, but in today's clown world, with men having to compete with women in the workplace, yeah, it deflates your wages. And many, I suppose you could look at judges, you could look at, I don't know, anywhere from movie stars to your supervisors at work, professors and whatever. There's a lot more women in these positions, and I can understand it when a guy feels like, well, what's the point in losing everything? So I'm not going to go to college or apply myself and then take the chance of getting married, and that is a terrible thing to have happen. There are risks in everything, a lot of risks, and a lot of being married to a Filipina is adjusting on the fly, and keeping things at a good level, so you're not bouncing way up and down every day. New York Mets fan 2006, Abba, women completes a man and a man completes a woman. Thank you for saying that. As I alluded to in my comments, they're still made for each other. Now, this again, if you're not coming at it from a biblical point of view, I understand this will sound like gibberish to you, but the first man ever made was given a wife within 24 hours. He wasn't asked if he needed a wife, wanted a wife. God gave him one, whether he wanted one or not. And he was making a statement. And, it's good that it's not good that the man should be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. And in the Bible, there's a law of firsts. And so the thing is, you can carry over what is learned from the very first time. He wasn't saying it's good for Adam only, nobody else, to have a helper as a wife. It's good for every man, except for some exceptions. 1 Corinthians 7, where a man just doesn't need a wife. How do you know you don't need a wife? You don't need sex. Don't need sex. Don't need a wife. And because that's the ability to be single. Now you're going to say, well, that's preposterous. Who can do that? Not many. Not many can. Fable inspired. What's that moving in the background? Probably me from being restless and hopefully whatever it is doesn't have legs on it, or I'm out of here. But we did have a mouse outside in the. I think it died in the snow. It got when it got really cold the other day. Now here, I just don't want to miss anything. Yeah, Dimitri, you're always welcome to join that the Love Beyond the Sea Community Corner. You can join it and then direct message me, private message me there. We can set up a chat room and just the two of us can talk out whatever you have on your mind. I'd be glad to help you. I can probably even stay up a little bit tonight. My wife will be home in about 4 hours. She put in 4 hours of overtime before her shift. So I'd love to talk with you. No problem. Just sign up on go to the community corner on that link there, or in some of the more recent videos, or in the description box when we're done. And I'd love to talk with you there. We don't want you driving yourself insane when things, you want to get things answered. If it was his job description, would not have been necessary. Well, I don't know what you mean for sure there, but we do need to protect and provide for our wives to the point of great sacrifice, because we're stronger than women. Why do men need women? Why do women need men? Abba says, and that's a fair question. I think we're running out of time, so thank you for being. No, we can't, and we don't want to dodge questions like that. Where's Mr. E when I need him? No, I'm just joking. Man needs a woman for example, procreation. That's probably the most obvious situation why a man needs a woman. He needs her for sexual fulfillment, because that's just a part of how a man was made by his creator. And that's why we have sexual attraction. It's not so we can spread our seed all over the place, but it's so we find somebody, find them young, marry them young, and hopefully stay together as long as possible. Now, when I'm saying this, I'm asking you to not look at this through the filter of MGTOW. If you can, humor me with that, because we all know that is, making things difficult today. But back to how it originally was and how it still originally is, since nothing has been rescinded in the Bible. You want to raise a family, you need a woman. You don't want to be sexually active with a bunch of women. There's no really good in that for society, or for you, or for her, or for the children that come from that. He needs a family. Family is the foundation of society. He needs that companionship, somebody to relate with and have a companion every day. The children are going to need him to enforce some discipline and just be a good father too. The children are going to need the mother, and just the basic things like that. Now you could say, as I have heard before, well, marriage is just a piece of paper. I can have a relationship without paper. Thing is, though, I don't think you would have the commitment without that paper. You could say, well, we're committed. In my case, we got married. We don't have a safety net. We can't just amicably part ways if things begin to suck. We have to work it out. And the onus on that, I think, is on the man, because he's her head. And we get into theology here, which we don't have to do here tonight, but he is her head. He is responsible for her, just like when Eve clearly sinned first and ate the fruit, because Satan very shrewdly bypassed her husband. the first person God questioned wasn't Eve. It was that husband that was just standing there not doing anything. And he was just as guilty. But that's all kind of just information there. But yeah, I do agree that there is a completion process. However, again, let's look at it this way. If they're so to complete each other, a divorce tears them apart. And there are a few things worse on a person psychologically than going through a divorce. The rejection from a divorce is 100 times worse than any kind of rejection when you're single. It's a very deep personal rejection. Then throw on getting abused and adding insult to injury by, losing your income and possibly being able to see your children. And this is all of the devil. The devil wants to cripple marriage by ruining it or by just keeping people from getting married in the first place. I'm trying to push back a little bit here with Love Beyond the Sea, for those who just aren't quite ready to accept that. So where are we here? Thank you, Walt. Yeah, Michael, good question. If you try to answer this in a secular way, it will not commute. Genesis explains this. We're not designed to be alone. Very few people, John the Baptist, the Apostle Paul, who may have been married and then was given a different gift after his wife may have died, was able to be alone because his lifestyle was going to be completely not meshing with being married. But that was a gift he had. And not many people do have that gift of being able to be single. Yeah, the USA isn't the center of the world. There's life outside our boundaries. It only took me 53 years to figure that out. Actually, I didn't figure it out. I had my pastor sent me an email about a man that found somebody overseas. I don't know if they were married or not, but he just brought up that idea of overseas. And so I had seen it before somehow. And I said, when I saw it the second time, okay, maybe this is a sign and this is something I need to do. And as it turned out, it was. Where is, I just skipped it here. Big Rob, you're going to live in the Philippines, 30 minutes away from the beach. Best life ever. Well, I hope so. I hope you like hot weather, though, Big Rob. I'd rather live on a mountain somewhere, but I'm going to have to get used to that. But again, Abba, you look at this, I hope I'm pronouncing the screen name you want. It's not really nonsense. I mean, again, those of us that believe that a higher power has decided all of this for us can trust that when you see a relationship work out the right way, there's nothing better. There's nothing better in the world than having a good wife and raising children. We may never experience that ourselves, but there's nothing better. Now that's the right way. That's the best way. What you're seeing here today in the West, and there are countries with a higher divorce rate by far than America, is what you see isn't what is capable of being done, and what many used to do and many are still doing today. They're just not giving up. But yeah, I do believe they complete each other. The last thing I hate being single and alone. I just hate it. My wife, I've been home for like 8 weeks. I had my knee replaced, going back hopefully in a couple of weeks, but now I got my foot has nerve damage, but she's not here. It seems like just lonely when my wife is not here, even if she's not particularly loud. I just like to know that when I go over there in the bedroom or I go upstairs, my wife is there. I can hug her and we can talk or just play on our phones or whatever, go to bed, plan our future together. I tried my best to keep busy, keep my mind occupied on other things, go to the gym, community service, work with the church, and everywhere you go, what do you see? You see couples and you see attractive women. And then what happens? It's just like a punch in the face that you're alone and you can't escape it. And so, you can drink the problem away, drug the problem away, use porn, lead permissive, what's the word? Can't think of the word here. Promiscuous lifestyle, and try to quell that pain, but it's just not going to happen. My pain went away when I married my wife, and I see that she's just a good wife and companion for me, and there's nothing better. I do agree, New York Mets fan, that it does complete you, and maybe you need to hear that from other men's perspectives that feel the same way, and then maybe you'll begin to see that they're not crazy. Not that anyone is that disagrees with that, and it's a good question, and it comes from the Bible. A man needs a wife, a woman needs a man, and God wasted no time getting the first man married within a day. And then for the first time, he said, and God looked at all he made, and it was very good. And they were the crown of creation. So, Michael, okay, 7 billion people on the planet, not being alone isn't an issue. Well, and that's a good point. And the aloneness that I'm talking about is not isolation. It's not being the only one in a room. McAfee antivirus renewal. My wife says we have it, so I keep getting a message. The aloneness isn't, a proximity thing, or it's a close intimacy with another person where your life is tied into theirs and theirs is into yours, and you've got these children, and you are one. You're so intimate, you're not yourself anymore. You're one. You lose yourself into each other, strife and all, and that's a good thing. Just being alone, for those of us that want that touch and the intimacy and the companionship and the closeness, somewhere to come home to every day, something to build. We can't live without that. It's just not worth it. So rather than give up, we look overseas, some country, anywhere else, but the one that we've been struggling with. But the aloneness is far deeper than just having somebody to call up on a date, to go out for dinner with, to go to a ball game with. You can do that and feel very alone. Now, some people say the most alone I ever felt was in my marriage because it didn't end up well. But that's not the way it's intended to be. And when it's right, there's just nothing better on earth, I don't believe. Hank Fil-Am. I don't hate on guys getting with poor girls, but I only go for the middle class, college educated ones, just my preference. And that's a-okay. Abba, I believe that what men want is reciprocity. Women simply aren't capable of this. Well, I'm going to take exception to that too, because being what's the word? A responder is what women are best at. That's what they're supposed to be doing, following the lead of the man, her husband, who, whether he's right or not, is responsible. So she needs to at least respect that, but he should be smart enough to ask for her help and her opinion, but he's responsible for how things go. And it's a lot easier if she just, goes along with him and learns to trust his lead. But I do believe that women do respond to leadership, proper leadership. We're talking here kindness, sacrifice, patience, not being controlling, wanting what's best for her. And that's selfless leadership. A woman is very likely to respond to that in a certain way. Vention MGTOW, thank you for being here. No matter what, you will always be last on her list. Before you will be her parents or siblings, and of course her kids, and then possibly her pets. No, and then maybe you. And no, that doesn't appeal to you or me. Vention MGTOW, that's just not appealing. And I went out with a woman once, and shades of Joe Piscopo, and I got the distinct feeling, well, the first 2 times were actually canceled because of other obligations like grandchildren and children, and I kind of was glad that she wasn't interested, because I felt like, man, I'm just going to be a fifth wheel. What am I here for? She doesn't need me. She has all her time tied up in her grandkids and her kids, and it's like, well, that sounds just totally terrible. I don't want that, and I didn't settle for that either. But if you are married or whatever, not married to, but you have a relationship with a woman who treats you like this, thanks for the thumbs up, last on her list, and parents and siblings and so on, maybe you're alluding to a Filipina there, well, then that's just a bad thing. But I don't agree with you will always be last on her list. I don't think that's true in my case. I don't think that's true in other YouTubers I know, or some Fil-Am couples that we know here personally. They're happy with their wives. Did they marry perfect women? No. And the guys certainly know their wives need to be very tolerant of them, because we're not perfect either. But I'm not last on my wife's list. I will acknowledge that as a Filipina, she is obligated, whether I can understand that or not, to help her parents. Like I said earlier, she will feel a deep sense of shame if she does not help her parents. It does not mean that she has to give in to every single request for money, because she does not. And if she's working in your country and knows how much tax they take out, and how expensive everything is, how expensive health insurance is, and knowing that she also wants to work and have some things for herself, and maybe helping with you with some bills like my wife does, she's not going to just say, oh, here, help yourself, blank check, whatever you want. She's not going to do that, because she's working too hard for her money, and she does want to be responsible to her husband. Now, they may have some occasional clashes over the dollar amount or the type of place the money is going to. That's not really limited to a foreigner and a Filipina. But it's not true. I am not last on my wife's list. I know her parent or her family or siblings are very important to her, because she lived with them for all of her life before she married me from the other side of the world, and married me very quickly. So I am not going to interfere with the filial love that she feels for her family, because that's a strong bond. It's not going anywhere. What I need from her is what I need from her. And those are things that you discuss before you get married. What are your needs? And I'll just be real frank here. I had 3. I don't know that anyone would really disagree with me here, but I need companionship was number 1. And I mean regularly, that I can count on. I needed, sexual intimacy. That's critical. 10 out of 10, that's a must-have, I think, for most of us. And then touch. I wanted touch, just somebody that's there, somebody I can be, not that I'm touchy-feely or anything like that. I had no idea if I was or not, being alone for so long, but I like to hold her and touch her, and She meets my needs. Okay. So if she meets my needs, I don't have anything to complain about unless I just want to complain. So that's where I feel about that. I think, if a woman's material needs are taken care of, he's trying to do his best to help her emotional needs, then she really doesn't have much to complain about. My needs are met. I don't have much to complain about, and that's what I feel about that. So I'm not really interested in a pecking order of needs. I'm more interested in, are my needs met? Okay, I don't care where I am on her list, because my needs are met. My goals have been satisfied by marrying her, and so I don't care. I mean, she's not. No woman's going to come out and say, "I love my family more than you." It's not that simple. This is why, using words like always and never are not helpful. She's always going to have a very strong love for her family, especially her parents. So just accept that, and don't make a big deal out of it, and you'll be fine. And communicate with each other about your needs. That's what you do when you're married, because you have an obligation to each other. Even in the sexual relationship, it's for the other person. 1 Corinthians 7, it's a debt. I know that doesn't sound romantic, but it's a debt. I owe her pleasure. She owes me pleasure. It can't be withheld because it's not for you. It's for the other person. And that's part of that strong intimacy, a strong oneness that I mentioned earlier. Hank Hilliam, I don't think you should ever be in love with a woman, just be in love with the moment. Well, I mean, are you suggesting that, I don't know, if you're in love with a woman, she could, hurt you real bad, because we are going to be hurt, because our wives are going to say things to us that we don't want. We're going to say things to them we shouldn't have said. Being in love, though, or I should say, well, again, being in love and actually loving somebody are two different terms, which is why I talk about those type of things in my videos. Being in love could be kind of like infatuation, where you could be out of love just as fast. So I don't want to be in love with my wife. I want to love her, and I'm committed to doing that, whether she loves me or not. And if I do my job, I don't think I have much to worry about. I know every day isn't going to be, roses, but that's just the way it is. I just commit to loving her, which is being good to her, putting her first. I don't like halvesies, 50-50, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I'm not interested in her scratching my back. I'm interested in me being the best husband I can be. And again, if I do that, I think everything will take care of itself. And that will include a lot of sacrifice, a lot of giving. And marriage is give and take. My wife is everything. I couldn't be happier with her, and I really miss her whenever she's not here. And even though I've invested so much of myself into her, that develops strong feelings of what you could call love, I guess. And in short, Hank, I'm trying to say that love is a verb. It's an action, and you either do it or you don't. Feelings come, feelings go. Big deal. One day I love my football team, the next day I hate them. And with my wife, I got to be committed. I really can't be concerned about feelings, other than saying that the feelings come when I give myself to her. God gave man a helpmate. A modern woman is anything but, and certainly seems like it. And that's why we have the MGTOW movement, where men, You know, they don't feel like they're getting the help. They married a competitor or an antagonist, and they don't feel like they have a union. They don't feel like they're one. They're at odds with each other, and that's what it's come to, you know, because of various reasons. Not many men can handle staying single, but um, um, not many men can handle staying single. But in my case, I tried dating and having girlfriends for 10 or 15 years, but it was never fun. I stopped in 2009. Don't miss it. Um, well, Vench and MGTOW, I'm glad you're here tonight, and I'm glad you're commenting. I don't want anybody to feel like they don't have a right to comment. I just hope you can. I hope you can do it. I don't know how old you are. You don't have to tell me. Just that the door is always open. You know, if you want it to be. Yeah, love dolls can fulfill the desire for coitus for the most part. Well, you know, interestingly, I did a live stream. I think I dared to do it live. I think on love dolls, because I saw a video of a guy in I don't know, Japan, China, something like that, and they filmed him taking his love doll. I think he was even married. They filmed him taking his love doll on dates and sitting her down. And I know you can think that's pathetic, but you know, whatever he wasn't getting, he showed great care for this doll. Um, he felt that he was meeting her needs. He felt a bond with this love doll, and but the thing is, there is no response whatsoever. Many times in relationships, hi Phil's the Phoenix. Many times in sexual relationships, let's say with people that aren't married, it is, you know, to please oneself or to make the other person think you're special. But I think it all comes down to wanting to take care of yourself, because a lot of the guys will just go find somebody else and do the same thing. But marriage, you know, sex in marriage is for the other person. You're not supposed to say no. You're not supposed to deprive them. And that's easier said than done sometimes. But it's the right way, because you are for that person. You're with that person. You have such a strong bond with that person. And to deny the sex in the marriage is a bad idea. Nothing is going to go well when that happens. And ideally, that never happens. Of course, it does happen sometimes. That's why you want to make things right as soon as possible. But the love dolls, interestingly enough, yeah, I did a video on that, only because I was shocked to see how elaborate some of these love dolls were. But they don't satisfy. I think they might fool a person into thinking it's doing something good, and I almost feel like, you know, it's hard to take that topic seriously, except there's so much money in it. In the state of the affairs today, I thought I would do a video, you know, see what people thought. They probably didn't know what to think from it. Reproduction isn't a need. In many cases, it isn't even a desire, which is why the responsibilities of fatherhood must be enforced by the state. And it's not a need for an individual, but it is a need for society. And that's why we, again, from a biblical perspective, we are supposed to have those children, whether we want them or not. At least one. Bob, good to see you here. The bitter odor of MGTOW is in the air. Don't let it happen to you. Well, Bob, we're talking about a video that I'm giving my response to from a guy named the Nomad Capitalist, something like that. You have to go read the title. Well, he was talking about MGTOW. Thank you for everybody here tonight and for the thumbs up. And he gave 5 salient points I thought that I kind of wanted to throw out there. And he was looking at solutions, and maybe it's time to go over those, Bob, so you know what we were talking about earlier on this unplanned live stream. He talked about 6-minute mark, why are we stuck blaming women? He said the 7-minute mark, run to something, not from something. He said the 7:12 mark, go where you are treated best. Later, he said people put their home country perspective on the rest of the world, and that isn't always helpful. And he said, why don't we try to find a solution? So those were his points. And so I thought, well, let's talk about this tonight, because it shouldn't really ruffle anybody's feathers. I hope not. I'm not antagonistic towards people who have been hurt through divorce. Some on this, well, many people everywhere. It's just normal in society anymore. Abba says, Michael and Heidi, the only difference between a Western woman and a non-Western man, between a Western woman and a non-Western woman is the environment, not their motivation. Possibly some truth to that, guys. You're welcome to talk about his comment there. The environment is different. There's no divorce in the Philippines, but then again, that kind of leads to having a lot of unfaithful men out there too. So, a lot of people that are MGTOWs have been indoctrinated in MGTOW. Excuse me here. All I'm saying is there are people who have been MGTOW who are no longer MGTOW. Some of them right here. And so they're glad that they were able to have a change of heart, a change of perspective. And that's their prerogative as well. Well, here again, Abba, you make some good comments. I like them because I can see where you're coming from, but I can also see where I feel differently. The spouse isn't required for intimacy. Depends how you describe intimacy. For example, if you're talking sexual intimacy, animals have sex, they procreate, but there's I wouldn't say there's any intimacy there. Two people wanting to please each other without a commitment and owing each other nothing would also not be what I would consider intimacy. I think now that you bring it up, intimacy would be, we've got something going, we're working on this thing to keep it together, we're going to give, we're going to take, we're going to do whatever we have to do, treat each other right, and be together. If we raise children, we raise children. That kind of changes everything, makes it more difficult, but nevertheless, having children actually is supposed to make your relationship stronger. Like the Bible says, happy is a man that has his quiver full of them. A quiver was like 9 or 12 arrows. It was a lot. And I know a lot of the things the Bible says seem paradoxical, but so that's just the way it is. But yeah, I would say, since you brought it up, I would say, well, yeah, a good spouse is needed for intimacy, because you've made a commitment. Then you come to say, well, what does commitment mean? Well, I guess to be simple, that would be marriage and stay marriage together. Reproduction is necessary for you and I to be here today and keep this world going. Okay. I can live without that. Uniquely Extra, thanks for being here today. Good to see some new names here. What is your opinion? Are Filipinos not attracted to men with beards? Or do they prefer clean-shaven men? In general, they prefer clean-shaven men. And if you were to do like I do and you watch some Filipino movies with her, just about all of the men are clean-shaven. and that includes facial hair and then their head hair. Now, I had a beard and I had more hair. I could show you a picture, but I won't. When I met my wife, and she didn't like the hair or the beard, so I changed it for her. I told her, "Hun, I'm going to go Filipino, and I'll shave my beard, and I'll cut my hair a little bit shorter, just so she likes it shorter on the sides and so on." So, if she likes it, what's the point of me saying, well, she's the one I have to please. I'm not intimate with anybody else out there. So, if she wants my hair a certain way, the more power to her, I guess. It hasn't hurt me any. But prefer. You will see Filipinos with a husband or maybe a boyfriend who is not clean shaven, but like anything else, that's what you want to talk about before. But I can tell you her basic preference from the men she sees and the people in the movies and the celebrities, they tend to be clean shaven men. Michael and Heidi, men can go on being bitter until they die, trying to do relationships on their own strength, wondering why it never works out, like women at the well, take a drink of the living water. And Michael, former MGTOW, has a different view on things now. Uniquely extra, they're attracted to the same thing all women are, benefit. And there are benefits a man can give a woman, and he should be proud of that and look to make the most of that. That's just the way they were made. And if the man is able to provide her that, then good for him. Now, if you're thinking about or implying, money, I did a live stream on do you have enough game for a Filipina or something like that, or do you have enough game to attract a Filipina? And I read from different sources. One of them was like a player, or that's the impression I got. And if I remember, he said the most important thing for you to know is to be able to meet her emotional needs. And he said that was the most important thing, and I highlighted that because I thought, well, that's an interesting thing to say. And, I don't have any beef with that. You want to try to understand her, know her, be good to her emotionally, help her to feel safe with you emotionally, mentally, physically. That goes a long, long way. And men want benefits too. We marry for benefit as well. Aaron Taylor, we may not be last. Thank you, Aaron. We may not be last on the list, but in the end, blood is thicker than water. And we want to respect the Filipina, because if you know this going into it, then it's a lot easier to just accept it. The family needs to be taken care of. We have the option of not marrying a Filipina, but for many of us, that would be giving up the best chance we have to find a great wife. And if you just have to acknowledge that's a cultural thing, and it's very important to her, and be as supportive as you can. And I don't feel like I'm first or last or fifth or third. I don't look at it that way. I just look at it, am I meeting her needs? And is my wife meeting mine? I just, that's good enough for me. Vention MGTOW. So you think you are first in your wife's list of priorities. I think you're wrong. Given a choice to save anyone in her family or you, she'll choose them. Well, this is just a hypothetical statement here. We don't know. Thanks for the thumbs up. We don't know what she would do in that situation. I am called to give up my life for her, so I know what I would do. And again, a person shouldn't feel bad. Even hypothetically, if she said, my family is more important, hypothetically. Well, you know, you have a job to do, you have responsibilities, do it. Meet her needs. And if she's meeting yours, who cares? Who cares about ranking? I'm a winner because I married a really, really wonderful woman that I'm trying to help grow and develop. And because she is a lot younger, the best that I can. I'm not in competition with her family. And the less I try to compete with her family, the better our marriage is going to be, the stronger our marriage is going to be. Because I understand she wants to provide for her parents, especially. She has to. It's not a question of does she want to, it's a matter of obligation. It's a cultural obligation. And I'm telling you that because it's true. But so what? It doesn't have to change anything, especially if my focus as a man is on being good to her and doing the things I need to do. I don't care. I don't care where I rank. It doesn't mean anything to me. So yeah, there is no written in stone list of priorities. It's just a hypothetical thing. It's a perception. Obligation without enforcement is simply a feeling and is of little value. Well, you're saying some really good things, making me think. Wish I had more time. Obligation without enforcement is simply a feeling and is of little value. Um, well, for example, now I always have to go back to what the Bible says. The Bible says, uh, do good to those that hate you and despitefully use you. That's a command. You got to do it whether you feel like you're not because God says so. Why? Because he did it to you. So you have to do it to others. If you don't, you got it wrong. He tells you to love your wife and forgive her, be kind to her. Well, you're under obligation to do that, whether you have any feelings or not, because he did it for you. And he didn't have to either, but he did. Um, Unless I'm misunderstanding you. Um, Obligation is not a bad thing. It's maybe I'm looking at interchanging responsibility for obligation, and maybe that's not what you mean. So I'm sorry if I misunderstood that. When you marry, touch and sexual intimacy is the first thing to go. Not for some people. For some people, that ends up being okay, but they just can't seem to get along in other areas. And we're still going well. Um, the the intimacy is going to, it depends on what you mean by go. It's going to recede. It's going to decline. That's natural. But for it to be eliminated completely before you're old enough for it to be eliminated completely would indicate a problem in some other area. Because let me toss this out there to you, something to think about. A married couple's sex life is a reflection of the overall health of their relationship. If their relationship is healthy, that will be manifested in their sexual relationship. If the sexual relationship is not healthy, then there are things elsewhere that need to be addressed. Michael and Heidi, when you seek a worldly woman, you get just that, the realization of the world. And what a frightening thing that is. Hank Fil-Am to Vention MGTOW, that is true. And it happens because men settle for a woman and think she is the one. She's not yours, it's just your turn. But there are women out there that are not like that, which is part of the video today. Go somewhere else. And now we have the comment here that reproduction is an individual need as well, because again, we have an obligation to carry on our name if possible. And I didn't catch all of that comment here off to the side, but this is this might be a type of video to take into the community corner and talk about some of these things. And I love the conversation here, because we're talking about a MGTOW situation, and the video where the guy is saying, well, hey, it's not like that everywhere, and let's not be complaining about women. It's not productive. Let's look for a solution. And he was talking about being a nomad capitalist, yet his comments, I think, were very constructive to somebody looking for a wife. Jay Bud's been silent, but I see he has made an appearance down here, so I'm looking forward to that. So you say, I'm just here to be the best husband I can be. I don't care about feelings. I am trying to be the best husband I can be. And if I do that, she'll have feelings for me. So to me, it's not a problem, because I married someone that I thought had a good head on her shoulders, and I'm doing everything I can to be good to her, being patient and being kind, being forgiving, and wanting to do things that she wants to do over what I want to do. I've lived a lot longer. If I wanted to do it, I probably would have done it by now. I want to do what's best for my Filipino wife, and that's what drives me. I want her to know. I say this to her from time to time, hon, listen to me. I want you to know how much I care for you. I want you to understand as much as you can why I do what I do for you. You're very important to me. I love you. I need you. You're the best wife I could have. I can't believe I married you. And she's very grateful for that. Now, I could always nitpick and complain and be selfish and cuss her out and be doing my own things, and then what will happen is she will become Americanized since she's here in America. I just did 2 videos on how to keep your Filipino from not changing or becoming Americanized, and I listed 29 ways. There may be more that come down to being a good husband to her, treating her right, and then what? Waiting for her reciprocation, or another way, her response. And I believe that she will respond to that in the way a woman should respond to that, which would be with respect. And I'm happy. But yeah, I know I say some unconventional things, but I'm just a focused individual. I care about getting the job done. And if it's not done and it's not done right, that bothers me. And since I'm the one in charge of building this marriage, I'm the one that feels like I got to figure out what to do. And what am I doing wrong? What do I need to do better? What do I need to do more often or less intensely? Or I better, get some feedback from some people I trust, because, I'm in a situation, I got to do something. I got to do better. I just put that on me, so I don't want to be blaming my wife for anything. I'm the one that married her. It all starts there. And yeah, I didn't want a worldly woman, or Michael, we'd be having some worldly problems. So yeah, I do mean that. And as far as saying, again, here's the thing. When you say I don't care about feelings, I can say I don't care about feelings. I know I'm going to get the feelings. It's not like saying, well, I'll be the best husband I can to her, and she won't even know I exist. I'll be invisible, and that's okay with me. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the feelings will be there. I don't have to squeeze them out of her. The feelings will be there. on both of our parts. I'm not saying you should necessarily cheat, but always make your lady think it's a possibility. Well, that could open the door for the type of behavior for the wife that has gotten this world in the trouble it has. Another possibility, Hank is giving her the impression that, like I do with my wife, that cheating is never going to be a possibility, because that's not a solution. That's just, you're going to probably dig your own grave that way. We got to work it out. So that's my perspective on that. I don't see how I am obligated to have kids for the community when that community treats me like dirt. Well, again, this goes to a higher calling, a higher power, and that's be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. It's somewhere in Genesis, and it was reissued after the flood, when we had to start over with 8 people. That's a command, so I need to do it. If I've already done it, I don't have to do it again. We haven't done that. We haven't successfully done that, so we're still open to it. We're not trying to prevent that in our case. But it's not about how society is treating me. For some of my perspective, it comes down to that's what God tells me to do, and so He knows best. Hopefully, we'll be able to produce a child. If He says no, I don't want that to happen, well, then there's nothing we can do about it. I also did a video, a live, on should age gap couples have children. I did a live on that, and you might want to go back and look for that live stream. We did talk about some of those things. CJ, welcome, CJ. God said, I wish you could be single like me, but if you cannot control your lust and marry. And this, you're talking about the Apostle Paul, 1 Corinthians 7. The Apostle Paul at a time when women were treated like dirt, certainly like second-class citizens, unimportant. And Paul, who had the gift of singleness, told young widows to get married. He told men to get married. Don't have sex with somebody else other than your wife. Get married. He didn't have to. He got married. He even told a group of people called unmarried to get married. The virgins were people who had not had intercourse, not been married. He told them to get married. He told the widows, get married. He told the unmarried to get married when he said, I say to the unmarried and widows, he's talking about 2 different types of people there. Who are the unmarried? If they're not virgins, if they're not widows, they have to be divorced. And so he's saying there, marriage is important. You think it's nice without it? Well, I know nobody wants to be married to a wicked, vile, cantankerous woman. It's not meant supposed to be that way. And compared to that, it does seem like it'd be better to be alone. But there's good women out there who are willing to give their best to a man who wants to treat them right. J Bud, his use of the MGTOW was to get views. That's possible. J Bud, he's got 93,000 subscribers. He has apparently done some videos to negative reaction to MGTOWs before. But you may be right. I'm not gonna judge because I don't know. I'm not part of his strategy team. I bring it up because it's just part of our world, like divorce or feminism. And excuse me, when really young guys are giving up on marriage because of they're being told, hey, you need to give up on marriage. Well, hey, it's a free country. I have the right to have a YouTube channel and say, well, wait a minute, maybe you should give marriage another chance. And here's why, but it's part of life. I don't want to use it for popularity or views, because like this video here, I want to offer a solution. I was never MGTOW. I suppose I had every opportunity over 30 years to become so jaded and bitter. Um, but there was one thing stronger than the desire to become jaded and bitter, and that was to get married, man. I had a job to do. I had not completed it. I had not succeeded it. I didn't like to lose. Didn't see any reason why I couldn't get married. I just wasn't smart enough to think outside the box. And when I did, I decided to jump in with both feet, just like with anything else, although it's just a lot easier in the Philippines. She made me cut my hair and beard. Does she make you wear Mickey Mouse ears as well? Ha ha. No. Well, again, it was my choice, because I shaved my beard and I went to get a haircut. But that's not what I'm saying. It's just saying, what I'm trying to say to you is that when you marry somebody of your own volition, we force you to marry a woman that likes clean cut facial appearance and shorter hairstyle. Okay, that was, if you married a Filipino, that was your choice, and that was my choice. And so I think it's only sensible to say, oh, okay, well, I guess what are the benefits here of wanting it my way versus the benefits of doing it her way, which is best for the relationship, which is the best for our peace, which is the best for a happy and a wife who's more attracted to me. Well, yeah, I made the right decision there, and so I did make some changes. Is it for the better? Yeah, I even admit that. So no, I voluntarily did that for a reason, which was for our good. Justin G, thank you for being here. A new person tonight. Venture MGTOW, having kids is an implicit obligation of being part of society. Since you've benefited from its existence, you have some obligation to perpetuate its existence by having kids. And I think there's I like the word implicit, as in it goes without saying. So thank you for that comment to help balance things out. It's an interesting topic. I mean, you could just say it's not my job to have children. Let somebody else have children. And then again, of course, if everybody had that perspective, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have a civilization. So I agree, there is kind of an implicit obligation there. My higher way of looking at that is black and white. The Bible verse that says, "Be fruitful and multiply." It's been used by many people since the beginning of time. And, so that's why we're still open to that, because I'm trying to put my money where my mouth is on that. It just hasn't happened. But Jay Budd, MGTOW is about understanding female nature and the current divorce laws, with all the odds stacked against the man, and giving the women the power to walk away with half your assets at any time. And so it's better to learn before you have to go through it and experience it and learn the hard way. And by the way, I appreciate the 9 thumbs up tonight. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's an understanding of what's going on. However, I guess I still feel like pointing out that not all women are like that, or you would never have any good marriages. Now, some could argue, I've seen this from the MGTOW perspective too, well, nobody really had good marriages before. They only stayed together for 40 or 50 years because of societal pressure, because she didn't feel like she could go and get a job, and so she kind of felt bound to her husband. I just think that's kind of too easy of a way out. There are many people today that love their wife, they love their family. It's hard work, but they're keeping the door open, and not everybody has to. Anybody that's been through a divorce is going to need some time to heal, and it's a shock, it's a jolt. You say, well, this is unfair. I've been completely ruined. And maybe you haven't been completely ruined, but it feels like it. So yeah, men going their own way. It's I guess, I don't know, what would you call it, Jay Bud? It's a philosophy and ideology. I have my own. That's not really my own, and that's a biblical one that I am trying to follow. And so that's at least where I'm trying to defend my unusual views sometimes. Paul T., thank you for joining here tonight. Good to have you here. Does avoiding MGTOW or westernized entitled women come up in your responses to others about your relationship in your day-to-day life, especially related to her age and origin? Does avoiding MGTOW or westernized entitled women come up in your responses to others about your relationship in your day-to-day life, especially related to her age and origin? To be honest with you, the people that I tend to know, like at work or at church, they're not familiar with MGTOW. I've been the one, to be honest with you, explaining it to them is a big, important, impactful situation, phenomenon, whatever you want to call it, in the world today that they're not aware of. Because I tell them, look, I thought it was bad when I was still looking for a wife 4.5 years ago. By the sounds of things, it's even worse now, and not just here in the United States. But I would say simple answer is no, because most of the people I frequent with that aren't on YouTube don't even know what MGTOW is. It's just not part of their vernacular. But again, one of the things that was mentioned here was running to something and not from something. So it's not like I was saying, well, MGTOW, that's another problem in this country. I was always looking for a wife. I just ran to another country, something I've called the brown pill. Try something new, break new ground, go to a different land. It's getting later in your life. The leaves are starting to turn brown. You better do something while you still can. So, I didn't even know that MGTOW was a thing when I was looking for a wife. And the people I know now, other than people here, don't even know anything about it. If one believes that women are made that way, then isn't that a gentler way of saying that all women are like that? Abba, well, it depends on what we're focusing on, because the term "all women are like that," a waltz, has a negative connotation. But if I say, well, all women want security, then I think that's a universal statement that's not really negative or positive, good or bad. It's just a reality. But normally when my ears hear the term "all women are like that," it's very negative. It's not that they want security, it's that they want a whole bunch of things that they're unrealistic, or they're hypergamous, and they're up to no good. They're going to leave you. You can't trust them, and that's what I don't believe. And even if it becomes that way in America, one of the points here in this man's commentary was, in his video, was go somewhere else. Don't apply everything you know about one country to every other country, because it's not like that. Not all countries are like that either. Vention MGTOW. Justin G., I'm not really feeling the obligation. I've always been treated like an appliance. That's okay. This appliance just retired at age 54, and I can't afford to live in the States as well. Hank says, I'm not MGTOW, I'm just realistic. I follow Rollo Thomas's advice a lot. Anybody else? I'm not familiar with the gentleman. Anybody else that is? Justin G., I think that in large part the problem is that you've failed to maintain frame and or been with the wrong kinds of people. And that can certainly sour a person, and give them wrong impressions. Um, and if you just apply that to everybody else, and look, I'm not blaming somebody for feeling like all women are like that, because sometimes it seems that way. But is that really true? Is my wife like these, the Western feminists that we have here? And by the way, I have news flash that Rollo is married, for what that's worth, as I mentioned him earlier. Wrong kinds of people. That's where it all starts. Online, you're looking for somebody. Watch for those red flags. Don't give any money unless it's time to, i.e., you're engaged, you're married. That changes the situation a bit. And talk to other people, because it's very easy to get fooled when, after coming from the West, you go and you look in Asia and you have what seems like real interest from a ton of women. You don't know what to do with that interest. And it affects your mind. It affects your ego. It can affect your pocketbook. And then you start getting addicted to it, and you feel really good about helping her out. And then you even believe that by helping her out, you're winning points with her. And none of that may be true. And if a person can look back and say, yeah, I saw those red flags, I just overlooked them, or I didn't pay attention to them. Well, that's where it all starts. Absolutely, that's where it all starts, is the very beginning. And then being as reasonably sure as you could that you're with a woman that you can have a lasting relationship with. But to find a solution to a problem, one must first specify the problem. And what do trads view as the problem? Well, we're probably mostly concerned about just, finding a wife for herself. Trad is traditionalists, I suppose. Trad cons. The problem, essentially, again, I'm going to always fall back to this, and it's not an escape. The problem is sin. The problem is selfishness. The problem is not being kind or patient or forgiving. The two biggest problems in marriage you can distill it to two simple things, and that is selfishness and unforgiveness. That's it. Take care of the selfishness, take care of the lack of forgiveness, and a lot of this goes away. If the women are going to be unselfish and they're going to be forgiving, well, that's saying a lot. Unselfish and forgiving. If the women do that, things are changed. If the men are unselfish and they learn to be forgiving, then that's going to change. So, without being here all night, that's the way I would respond to that. And it's kind of a good thing to have all these comments, but makes it a little bit more difficult to keep track. And I thank you for everybody sticking with us here tonight. I do appreciate that. Vention MGTOW, since I'm the one who is in charge of building a marriage, I see the only build area available is dry sand. One strong rain and your house would collapse. A good engineer doesn't build on sand. Well, that's why a good engineer is going to build on a sound foundation. So, as a Christian, I have my idea of what that foundation is, and I'm going to look for a woman, and we're going to talk about those things. And before we got married, we talked about it. I wasn't going to leave anything to chance or guessing. I was the one that said, hon, this is the type of marriage I'm looking for. and it's the only type of marriage I'm looking for. This is how I think it needs to work. This is my role. This is the role of the person I marry. We have to be willing to fulfill these roles. If you're not, then you won't make me a suitable wife. And I probably wouldn't make you a suitable husband. So if you're looking for this, if you're looking for this type of foundation, this type of marriage, this type of role and responsibilities, hey, we might have a chance. And she could have said, thank you for your honesty, but I'm not interested. It's probably how a Filipino would respond. Yeah, that's why a lot of guys, they'll build their marriage on a bar girl, for example. They'll build their marriage on somebody without talking about how serious it is and what the expectations are. I did a 7-part series from a guy named James J. Sexton, a divorce lawyer, and he was essentially talking about how not to get divorced, what he had learned and observed in his 20 years of being a divorce lawyer. And I thought, well, that would make interesting reading for somebody, or listening, watching, whatever. And so you can see that video series too, trying to learn from what he saw. And he had some very insightful things to say. But the foundation is everything. And I'm glad you said that, because the foundation is everything, because it just is. So whatever your foundation is, make sure you've explained it. Maybe make sure you believe it. Make sure she believes it. Make sure that you can stick to it. But yeah, ours is lasting, I believe, because of the foundation, and that's what I go back to with my wife. And say, hon, this is why we have to do this. This is why I need you to do that. This is why I'm doing this, because I'm holding myself to a certain standard. And we just talk about stuff. We're getting into private areas that only the married couple has to work out their foundation and monitor their progress with their relationship. So yeah, that's just me. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to agree with me. That's what works for me. I'm in charge. I'm going to take responsibility. I'm not going to blame anybody. It's like a football team drafts a player from college, spends a lot of money on that player, fails to do their homework, and now they have a troublemaker on their hands, an unmotivated football player, or a player that has substance abuse, or isn't very bright, or something else, and they failed to vet them out before they invested all that money. That's the team's fault for drafting him. I'm sorry, but responsibility starts at the top, and I am at the top of that marriage because I am the husband. And that's nothing to hold over my wife. It's just that, and it's not, a woman is not in an inferior position. They are equal in God's eyes, but they have different roles, of course, and they have one has ultimate responsibility, and that's me. Whether I'm a simp or an alpha male, it doesn't make any difference. I'm a male. I'm responsible. And if you like responsibility, then a relationship is a good and tough place to get it. But I like that perspective, because then it keeps me from blaming anybody else but me, and that means I better find a solution, because it's my problem. Something isn't right. It's my problem. And I'm saying that about me personally. I'm not trying to project that on everybody else. I'm just saying my perspective and what I think about. I picked her. I married her. I paid to get her here. I laid the foundation. It's my job to keep us online. I know she's not always going to do that, because she's not perfect. And I'm not always going to lead the way I want to lead. But that's where forgiveness and working through that. And when you have a relationship, you have room for mistakes. You can make mistakes. You can blow it, because you have that commitment. you have to kind of work things out. That's just, maybe that takes some time to digest anyway, but I'm just sharing with you, what I was thinking. Uniquely Extra, thank you for being here. I am jumping back and forth into your channel. Don't know if you discussed this earlier. Do you recommend the dating site, Christian Filipina, or some other site? The other ones, Christian Filipina, if that's what you're intending to say, is where I met my wife. I saw a great video today from a couple that also got married from Christian Filipina. His channel is called Crazy Filipina Love. He's got like 28,000 Facebook followers. That's why he can put up about 15 videos and get 8,500 subscribers, because he has a strong following. He did a video today. The two husbands were talking to each other about the two wives, and then they would put the two wives there talking to each other about the two husbands. Brilliant idea, and captivating video. And they met on Christian Filipina. More people that say where they met their wife tend to say they married on Christian Filipina. That's why most of the affiliate sites that you see use Christian Filipina, because they've heard so many good things about it. And, that's where I married, and, worked for me. But look, it can be anywhere. It comes down to recognizing a viable prospect or not getting caught up in the sex appeal, not getting caught up in the younger woman talking to you, not getting caught up in her looks or her skin or her accent or her age or anything like that. And you got to brace yourself, because so many people fall into that trap and send money and make mistakes. You have to be prepared for that. And there are plenty of channels with plenty of good videos about that. Venture MGTOW, I'm actually an early MGTOW, went MGTOW in 97, 22 years ago. Men were designed to have enough surplus to support a family. That doesn't go away just because you stay single. I retired at 54. That's amazing. I wish I could do that. You must have planned you must have managed your money well. So that's a credit to you. Very, very difficult. And then you have to learn how to live on your means after that, which is another challenge. You sound like the type of person that's already thought that through as well. Many months where I'd only spend 30% of my wages, the surplus piled up. I did the math and retired. I wish I had been as disciplined as you were. I mean, I wasn't totally out of control, but, for a while I'm thinking, I don't know, how long do I even know I'm going to live? I don't want to stockpile money and then die or something like that. And I didn't know if I was going to get married. So, but congratulations to you for that. Do you believe that the environment in other lands are not susceptible? Excuse me, my mouth is moving slow here. Do you believe that the environment in other lands are not susceptible to becoming like the West? No, they are susceptible in time. The United States wasn't like that at one time, and now look at the mess we're in. Could the Philippines become that over time? Yeah, sure. All it takes is a spark, and then it takes time, and it's taken decades for the corruption, or the corrosion, I should say, here in the U.S. and in the West, and that could certainly happen. Certainly could happen, in the Philippines. Right now, it's a good place to look for a wife, I believe. Paul T, thanks for being here, Paul. He says, Venture MGTOW reaching a similar point. Well, you guys are better with your money than I was. I still work. Well, I want to retire at 62, which is kind of early still. I have to keep working overtime as much as I can. Women can only be trusted as far as her options allow. In the States, they have tremendous power, and when they have us hauled off to jail, that's when we truly know them. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That is very unfortunate how unkind the legal system and unfair and unsensible the legal system can be. Okay, good question, Vention MGTOW. If you're with a woman with vastly less power than you, do you ever really know her? Um, you know, I've made a lot of videos. One of them was on like avoiding a power struggle with a younger woman. Um, I don't, I don't, I don't view my wife or any Filipina or any woman that's from a poor country as having less power. It's neither here nor there. She's my wife. I owe her my life. To be good to her, and again, getting back to my responsibilities, which helps me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in this world. I've never viewed her as having less power. Um, you could say, well, she's never been to your country. She doesn't have her own money. She has less power, but I don't look at it that way. She's my wife. That's what she is. And it wouldn't matter her age. I just don't want this thing so tight. It looks weird over there. It doesn't matter her age, her education, even her background, her experience, blah, blah, blah. She's my wife. She deserves certain things. And that's what I focus on trying to do for her. But that's a fair question. Okay, to know someone, give them power. Well, yeah, I mean, then you get to see how they handle it, and that's true. That's true. You can see that in your place of employment. Some people, you think they're one way, and then they get a supervisor job or something like that, and boy, that's not the same person I knew. They've really changed. That does show up in places. Justin G. The U.S. has undergone radical social change over the last 50 years. I'm 58. I've seen that, which has broken down traditional roles in society. Other countries are more conservative and interested in preserving tradition. Um, I would consider the Philippines a traditional place. Well, at least I found a traditional wife, someone that loves family, someone that would love to be a mother, someone that loves to be good to her husband. She's a good lover. She wants to have a nice, clean, respectable house. If we have people over, that it looks nice. She's hospitable. She's a very hardworking woman. She doesn't always say a lot, but she doesn't complain a lot either. I would think that's pretty wonderful thing. But you're right, Justin G. They have we have undergone a lot of change. Yeah, they may be today. Will they be in years to come? Abba says, we don't know. We don't know. Sad to say, we just don't know. The husband is like the fans of the football team when they call the fans the 12th man as if they were part of the team. Problem is, we aren't part of the team. We will probably be kicked out. Sometimes you have to assert some authority as a husband, and say, well, this is what we need to do. I'm the leader here. I don't want to disappoint you, but I will if I have to, because I have to do what's right and what's best. And so no, I look at it in the football analogy as the husband is the head coach, the CEO of the organization, the general manager of the team, in that sense. Justin Abba says, Justin G., from what I see, most countries aren't interested in preserving tradition. Rather, they're interested in men shouldering responsibility. They're interested in keeping the oxen yoked. You say a lot of insightful things, Abba. I don't know who you are, but you have a way with words, and I mean that in a good way. Okay, now I have to read this before I can show it, I guess. Yeah, I'll hide that. I read your comment, Bob. That's okay. I understand. If you bring her to the States, she can call the cops, taking advantage of the Violence Against Women Act, which must be very, very liberal. Then, as long as she insists she was abused by you, she gets automatic welfare and housing. Yeah, I know personally a doctor who went through that, just made his life a living hell. I don't know how he's doing now, but we followed the saga for a while, but it was just a terrible situation. Uniquely Extra, thank you for your channel. I enjoyed your discussion tonight and appreciate you answering my questions. I am retired, single, and 70 years old with beard, and we'll be moving to the Philippines next year. Well, good for you. Now, Uniquely Extra and everybody else here tonight, just again, at the very top of the live chat, we have a link to the community corner. It's brand new. We've got some comments in there. And so if you want to check that out, I would encourage you to do that, because it's a place where you can talk with other people. And soon, hopefully one day, it's a lot of people talking to a lot of people from all over the place about topics in the relationship lounge and the lifestyle lounge. And so that's what we're trying here, with the goal to help men talk about things that would be important for them to find love beyond the sea. And then, of course, at the top of the link also is the link to the Nomad Capitalist video that I am kind of reviewing tonight. So I think it's been it's been a nice live stream. I wasn't planning on it, or at least I didn't plan on announcing it. We are working on having a newsletter that would be part of the wonderful WordPress site, lovebeyondthesea.wordpress.com. The links will be in the description, where people can just sign up for the newsletter, and I just very least, say, well, here's what's going on, here's going to be the next live stream, here's the topic, here's the last couple of videos with a brief description, maybe some statistics, anything like that. We'll just see how it goes, but that way people are less likely to miss a live stream. Because I don't have 1,000 subs, I can't do a post. I can take the time to make a promo video, which I've done lots of times, except it takes time, and going back to work in a couple of weeks, working 6 days a week, there goes a lot of time. And then we're going to be in the Philippines, Lord willing, middle of December through the middle of January, and kind of get an expat trial run, what it's going to be like living in our house, some of my wife's family, getting used to the heat, the roosters. We've got some things to do there. Hopefully meeting some expats if time allows, if that's possible. And I need to form an opinion. I want to retire in the Philippines. I think that's what my wife would prefer. I just need to see if I can do it. I've been there 3 times. I kind of know what it's like from being there only 3 times. We're going to be going back a 4th time soon. So everybody, one and all, I thank you for being here early. I thank you for being here late. I hope you've enjoyed the live stream. I hope you consider subscribing. Think about the community corner and give that a try. Tell that to other people. In time, we'd like that to be a really big feature of that WordPress site. So thank you for being here tonight and talking about the Nomad Capitalist video, talking about MGTOW, trying to find solutions. Until next time, thank you for being here again. This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea.